everybody. Welcome to BNOW Coffee Chat with Cindy and Jeannie. I'm the Cindy. This is the Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie.
Like I dream of.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about the need for housing. Now, this was your idea, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Well, one of the things, and I've talked to so many people, who are looking for houses, and the prices have gone up. And I'm actually, I gave a talk at Rotary in the town where I am last week. And one of the things that, as you know, and as our audience probably knows, that Joe and I sold our house. Well, we sold our ranch and then bought a house. And we sold the ranch so that we could build the winery. We bought a house, then we sold the house and decided to renovate the winery. So we're living downtown. Well, one of the things that we find in this small town, Cindy, is that there is such a need for housing, and that people are, there's just nowhere for people to live. So in this little town, what that does is it hits all of the people who don't have big spreads and ranches and stuff like that, but they're working at the hospital, or they're at the school, or they're police officers, or they're working retail, or they're working fast food, or they're working for the city department, or whatever. So, it hits the working class people. And as from my front patio, I can see Main Street, because I'm like 100 feet away from Main Street. And on Main Street, both sides, are all of these vacant, abandoned businesses. And people over the years have tried to buy them and renovate them. And up until now, the owners have just dug their heels in. Now I'm not going to, do anything. And anyhow, which led me to believe and to talk about, and what my talk was at Rotary was, I saw an article recently that this young millennial guy, like 29 or 30 years old, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, found in a town right outside of the big city, he found a 5-story school that had been abandoned. And it was like 50,000 square feet, but 25,000 square feet of it was comprised of hallways and stairwells and, the gymnasium and the library and all of that. Well, he brought in 2 of his friends, and they looked at different things over a couple of years. And Cindy, they thought about, maybe we'll do a brewery, or maybe we'll turn it into this or whatever. And then they brought in this money visionary guy. And he said, at the end of the day, what people need are places to live. So they renovated this thing, and they made 31 one-bedroom apartments that are lovely. And they each have their washer and dryer. And then they have 4 2-bedroom apartments. And with the big spaces, what they did is they created, like where the gymnasium was, like a workout center with Pelotons and all of that.
Wow.
And in the library area, they turned that into like a seating area for the residents, and couches and TVs and a pool table and all of that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here is the cool thing. They did get a little bit of money from the state of Pennsylvania for, historical renovation, and also from federal government. I don't know how much, but mainly they were like focused on their own deal. It is already leased up. It's all rental. The 1-bedroom apartments rent for $1,650 a month. They're totally leased, which is, before you add in the 2-bedroom apartments, that's over $50,000 a month in rent that these people are getting. Well, it was so successful that they looked across the street, and there was another abandoned school. And they said, we kept hoping that it would look like it was haunted so that nobody else would grab it. And they bought that for $90,000, and they're renovating that too. So my talk to Rotary was all about the need for this. And I did some research, and in southwestern Colorado, There are these like little mining towns and all of that, and they need housing. But what is stopping them is that they don't have anything to draw in big money, and they have to do all of the infrastructure. They need plumbing, and they need lights, and they need roads, and they need internet and all of that jazz. Well, we don't need that here in Junction. We have the highest quality internet you can get. We have the infrastructure. And so it's just getting past all of those, yeah, buts and I don't want to and all of that. But nobody does anything without figuring out what's in it for me, the old whiffin. So what's in it for me is if I own a business and I can't find workers, because even the McDonald's up here, they had to buy a van and they drive into Kerrville, 55 miles away every day and pick up workers and bring them back and then take them home. Okay, so that's a problem. The other problem that we have are we are between two rivers and two arms of the interstate, I-10. So there's really not a lot of place that you can expand. They're not making new land these days. And so we talked about a week ago about getting ready for change and how, we need to have our minds what we want. And it occurred to me, instead of me thinking, because I tend to be, the ready, fire, aim girl, like, okay, let's do it. But it occurred to me, if I can focus on one person who owns one of the buildings saying, yes, I will, let someone buy it, or I'll renovate it myself and we'll make housing available, then that's great, because it's like the old broken window theory, which, Mayor Rudy Giuliani did in New York. And what they saw was that where these buildings had been abandoned, they had broken windows, and all of a sudden they collected trash and cigarettes and bottles and more trash. But once they went in and fixed the windows, there was a sense of renovation and pride, and everything changed. So my thought has been, get one place that will renovate. And I know that I have 4 friends who have already told me if there was a place downtown Junction, I would move from Dallas, Houston, wherever it is that they are, and I would come there. So, it is, and it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we usually see it in a pyramid. He never did a pyramid. But at the very bottom, you have the physiology. At the very bottom of our needs is food and housing. That's it. And it goes up from there, because food and housing is basic. And people who've got big ranches, they're fine. It's been in the family for years. But these other people, I heard someone call it home insecure, or whatever, instead of homelessness, home insecure. But the hierarchy needs are divided between deficiency needs and growth needs. So the physiological is going to be food and housing. Then it's safety. Do I feel like I can survive? And then it is belonging and love. Because once you have those needs taken care of, Cindy, then you can create a sense of belonging and love. And that goes up into esteem, like self-esteem. And then it goes into making like a community. And then it goes into aesthetics, self-actualization, and transcendence. And that's where you get the finer things in life. You get a sense of purpose, you get a career, you get higher learning, or whatever it is. But it starts with the basic needs of housing. And much of the housing has been just overpriced and priced out of the market so that people can't find a place to live. So anyhow, I know that you've just gone through that with like selling your house, and I did too, buying the house. Thank God I didn't have to buy one, but we're spending money on renovating it. But what do you think about the idea of just creating like one place?
What's so interesting about this? Just this morning, those little coincidences, there is a project that they're talking about in Nuremberg, Germany. And it's called the Q Project. So what's happening, I believe, in Europe, they got an award of, there was this humongous complex, this big, it's big, and they transformed it. So they're calling it recycling these big empty buildings. So Europe is a little ahead of us on this because that's what they're doing. They are recycling big buildings, and it was absolutely beautiful. They had places in this complex, there were jobs. So there were offices, there was babysitting there. So the people don't even have to drive to work. Their work is there. Their babysitters are there. Their groceries are there. Everything is there in this huge complex. And I'll put a link to that on the chat, on our comments here, because that's exactly what's happening over there. So my advice to you would be, hey, you want to be in the now and what in the future now, or do you want to wait for everybody else to do it first and then you do it? Because this is,
and we're dealing, absolutely. I love that whole thing because it addresses all of those things.
right,
And
because
unity and love and
everything that you said.
safety.
Because a lot of times, like my two girls, they work remotely. And they have a challenge when you've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, that's needing something and you're trying to work. So to have a big, huge place where people have cubicles, they've got babysitting, they can still work remotely, they can have, that type of thing. It can be adjusted for anyone. And I know in Europe, when Julie she still has her house in Italy, you don't need a car. You walk 5 minutes to the piazza, you walk a few minutes to the park, they have that downtown feeling, not in the villages where we're all spread out. So in my opinion, Europe, they didn't change a lot. They still have the train system. I wish we had the train system still, like we did back in the 50s and 60s. I don't know where all that happened, but it did. And I believe the freeways were made as emergency plane landings.
Runways. It was put in place by President Eisenhower.
Exactly.
And they actually laid out, east to west and north to south as emergency runways, for
right. So sometimes change as it might seem progressive, really isn't. Because, that's a good idea, but trains were a great idea, especially if you want to see the land, versus I'd rather jump on a train and watch the land like I can when I'm in Europe than drive and having to be in traffic and blah, blah, blah. Right.
Well, one of the things that you pointed out, and this is true, it's like even in this little town in the hill country of Texas, we only have 2,400 people in the city itself. And then we have like a total of 5,000, together. But with the ability to remotely work, it's like you're in Florida, I'm in Texas, and yet we can do our work together.
Absolutely.
Now that does not take the place, and I don't want to get off in the weeds here because we are talking about housing. That does not take the place of us needing to get together, and that's why we have our BNOW retreats, and that's why we have come-togethers. But
this is good though, because like you said, the sense of connecting, the sense of community. So we have this now. Yay. Yeah. Like George Jetson.
Well, years ago, Joe and I, when we put the winery in, our whole thing was to make a walkable community downtown, and we were going to buy some land. They had some like corner lots, a couple of streets over, and we wanted to build like a community of like 5 Katrina houses, tiny houses, put them in like a circle, put in the middle of that a circle of a community garden where people could garden and grow their own food, have their own little house, have parking, have safety, and all of that. And I don't even want to get into all the reasons why that didn't happen. It didn't happen. But sometimes you just have to grow into an idea and let other people catch fire. So we would love to hear from our listeners. Are you having insights? Are you having problems with housing? You know, and especially as people are aging and they don't have the ability to take care of a huge house. Now what? So, you know, I'm inviting people to contact us and let's just have some conversation around here.
Well, yeah, because you're the master of decluttering, and I got rid of 70% of my stuff in Texas. I missed some of it, but I wasn't using it. So
yeah, I know. I believe me, I'm there too. So anyhow, thank you all for tuning in. Please like us, please share, please subscribe, get notified, hit the notifications bell so that you know that whenever we're uploading, we usually upload every Monday morning. And we want to hear from you. Also go to beautifulnetworkofwomen.com. Speaking about getting together, we're going to have our first retreat at sea in October. It's filling up. Man, are we going to have fun.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.